Okay, so Ovi gets his 1,000th point tonight. Ovechkin now with 545 goals, so he passes Maurice Richard. He's got his 1,000th point in his 880th game. Now, Crosby's at 982 points. He's in his 741st game. And the question then becomes, how many more games until Crosby gets his 1,000th? There's the tying together of these two guys. They've both played for one team their whole careers. They've both been the best players. I mean, Crosby, the best point producer over the last decade plus, and Ovechkin being the best goal scorer, one of the best goal scorers ever, and passing Maurice Richard is a genuine thing for him. And it's comparing across from one generation, from two generations ago to this generation, and it kind of overshadows tonight's game, and yet it shouldn't, because Pittsburgh and Washington are fighting it out to decide, who's in control here. As was stated on TSN, they're the two teams at the top of the power rankings right now. I think Columbus is cooling off. Columbus isn't going to stay up as high as they are. I think Columbus is going to make the playoffs, but I do think Pittsburgh and Washington are still the two teams that you're most scared of going into the playoffs. It is amazing that Crosby's been able to score at the pace he has, and that he's almost caught McDavid. McDavid has really slowed down from where he was at the beginning of the season, but it's only his second year. And in terms of Ovechkin tonight and getting his 545th goal, his 1,000th point, it is worthy of note that his point totals have dropped precipitously from when he was a rookie. He had 106 points his rookie year, then he had 92, then he had 112, then he had 110, then he had 109. 2011 at 85, and then it just sort of starts to drop. The goals didn't. Like, he got 38 goals in 11-12, 65 points. In 12-13, the lockout shortened season, in 48 games, he had 32 goals, 56 assists. 13-14, he had 51 goals, only 28 assists in 78 games. That was the season he was minus 35, and he was horrendous defensively. 14-15, he turned his defensive game around. He scored 2 more goals. Assists stayed the same, so 53 goals, 28 assists, 81 points in 81 games. And then last year, he had 71 points in 79 games, and he had 50 goals. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that he can score 30 in a half season. And he has to score 30 from here if he's going to hit 50 again. He can do that. He can absolutely do that. But it's a matter of it's hard in the second half of the season, because that's when teams start playing better defense. Games usually get lower scoring and tighter in the second half of the season. So I'm kind of scared with how low scoring most games have been lately, and thinking that that's just going to tighten up further as we get closer to the deadline. But I figured, being Ovechkin's 1,000th point, being that Crosby is getting to that level, and he would have passed it a long time ago if not for injuries. I mean, you look at Crosby right now. Crosby stats, another tab. Back in 11-12, he only played 22 games, and that was during concussion problems. And it's easy to forget this, that he had 41 games played in 10-11 with 66 points. 11-12, he had 22 games played, 37 points. 12-13, he played 36 games, 56 points. There was some belief that he would never be healthy again, and then 80 games, 77 games, 80 games over the next 3 years before he's played 33 this year. So he should play over 70 games again this year. If he had been healthy those other 3 years, he'd probably already be up at about 1,200 points. Okay, maybe 1,150. But still, he'd be over 1,000 points. Crosby's an interesting story, though, because obviously he would have scored more points in another era. He's born in the era he's born in. There's no doubt that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, as is Crosby. I'd be very surprised if they retire at the same time they go in together. I wouldn't even be surprised if they win it alone, just the two of them, because of the fact that anybody who goes in with them is just going to get overshadowed anyways. The odds of that happening are probably slim. I mean, I would have to have some kind of a time machine and know who's going to retire what year and who's going to be eligible what year, and I just don't have that information. I can definitely look at it though, and I know there are guys who should be in the Hall and are not, but Crosby and Ovi are both going in. Ovi, whether I've liked or disliked Ovi, and I've disliked Ovi on plenty of occasions, I respect his ability to score goals. I respect his ability as one of the most dynamic forwards I've ever seen. And with the declining totals he's had this year, and they're declining, I wonder how many more years before he decides to go to the KHL. Now that he's got his 1,000th point, like let's say they hit that mark at the end of the year, they've finished second or third in their division, and they go out in the first round again. Does Ovi just say, "Okay, I'm done"? He looked close last year. I think the 2016 playoffs, when they got eliminated, he seemed absolutely just devastated. Then he went over to the World Championships and didn't help. He's put a lot of pressure on himself to win, and he's very disappointed the team hasn't. And I just don't see very many more seasons before he says I'm done and he goes to the KHL, because he wants to win. He'd like to do it in Washington. I can't see him ever being traded. I can't imagine Washington trading him, and I can't imagine what a team would have to give up to get him. So there's that. Anyways, let me know in the comments what you think. I honestly begrudgingly admit that I think Ovechkin's probably the best goal scorer I've ever seen, just for the amount of goals he's scored in an era when goal scoring is at a premium. Bossy had the most 50-goal seasons in a row. Mike Bossy I would put as the second most lethal pure goal scorer I've seen. And then Lemieux third, Gretzky fourth, Brett Hull fifth. That's probably where I'd put it. And that's just me. I think Bossy was scary good. Could score from anywhere, and Lemieux and Gretzky were just special. There was something in every part of their game that was fantastic. Lemieux had more of the physical side than Gretzky. Gretzky had his office behind the net. And Gretzky, when he was in his office, there's nothing in hockey that I've ever seen before that or after that. I haven't seen anything in footage or anywhere that is as impressive as seeing Gretzky behind the net and knowing a goal's coming. And you knew. As soon as he would get that puck behind the other team's net, there was a goal coming, and it was going to be special. So, with Crosby, I think with Crosby, what will be remembered is that he's hard-nosed, controversial. Not everybody likes him. And he is very outspoken when he has to be. He hasn't earned as much money in his career as he could have on the open market because he wanted to make sure Pittsburgh could ice a competitive team around him. He's got, numerous Stanley Cups to his name now. Ovechkin, pure goal scorer, one of the best shots I've ever seen, just lethal from everywhere. And he's still cocky, but he's not like he was when he was younger. I mean, when he was younger, some of those goal celebrations were just ridiculous. And he's settled a lot of that down. So yeah, sorry, another interruption. Let me know in the comments below your opinion on Ovechkin. This is Ovechkin. It's always hard not to tie him to Sydney, especially they're playing against each other. Ovi got his 1,000th point against Sydney. Like, it's that whole, it's almost like poetry in that they're always tied to one another. One echoes the other kind of thing. So, okay, here's a question with Ovechkin. Ovechkin's got 500 goals. Ovechkin's got 1,000 points now. Does the Stanley Cup ring have any effect on his legacy from here, or does he not need it? There's a question. Answer in the comments. And if you're just browsing through, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.